But I'm trying to, and I think everyone has now adjusted to the new events and the reality of it. And they've made adjustments, and I think they've been very public and very conscientious about sending that information to students.
Thank you.
Any other questions for our students?
You guys anxious to come back to school next week?
It looks like Emily's muted again.
I got her. Go ahead, Emily.
Sorry. Well, I'm not going back to school next week, but cohort B is. And there's like a bunch of mixed opinions on doing that, but we'll see how that works out. I'm excited to go back.
Yep. I too am, although I'm cohort
I'll
B.
start
Like,
cohort.
Hey, thank you, students. Let's move to the superintendent's report. Dr. Varley?
Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone had a safe and happy Thanksgiving holiday. And yes, we do look forward to seeing our GL students on Monday. More information is coming out tomorrow morning about that, and Mr. Nixon will be following up also to remind of the schedule. Because of the rapidly increasing cases of COVID in New Jersey, the district is basically operating on a day-to-day basis. We have received firm notification that it would be inadvisable for our district to remain open for in-person instruction in the event that our Central East region moves from orange to high risk to red, very high risk. Therefore, it will be my recommendation to the BOE that if our region is classified as very high risk, the Berkeley Heights Public Schools will move to remote instruction until such time as the Department of Health deems the infection rate has returned to safely manageable levels. Given the rapid increase in numbers across the state and the anticipated post-Thanksgiving surge in cases, it is likely that this will happen sooner rather than later. Families should begin to make plans for childcare as needed. While I believe that the best place for our students is in school, it is also imperative that we follow the directives of the Department of Health and move to remote instruction for the safety of students and staff should our region turn red. Out of our current cases right now, GL has 5 students, which is up 1 from the update on Monday. CMS has 0 cases, and that is down 2 from the update on Monday. Hughes has 1 student, which is up from the update on Monday, and the student has not been in school since 11/20, so therefore there is no risk to our current population. As our district level employees, we have 3 staff members who do not interact with students or instructional staff regularly who have tested positive. I want to take a moment to thank the Berkeley Heights Diversity Council for their invitation to join them for a listening session on November 18th, and it was such a great experience and a conversation that we are committed to continuing. It was very nice to have our current efforts validated by the community, but we still have a lot of work to do, and we definitely realize it. As part of our ongoing efforts to promote diversity and inclusion, tonight the board will be approving a resolution to partner with Central Jersey Pride, an organization that actively recruits diverse candidates for available positions. Finally, I will be out of district for a couple of weeks as I have to have a medical procedure. I anticipate a quick return, and in my absence, Mr. McKinney will be sending you updates and communications. And that is my talking part of the superintendent's report.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Varley. The first item on that I will start is we're going to honor our 3 board members who are retiring effective tonight as their last meeting. So I will start with Dante Gioia. So Dante, thank you. Dante has served as the Mountainside board rep twice in his career over the last 10 years as a board member. Being on the Board of Ed as the Mountainside rep is a little bit of a unique role in that technically you only vote on items related to Governor Livingston. However, as long as I've known Dante as he's been on the board, he's never acted in that what I would call parochial kind of way. His thinking was always, what's the best for our Berkeley Heights school system in its entirety? How can we improve not just the high school, but how can we improve everything at all of our schools? Given his time commitment that he spent on 2 different boards, Dante doesn't serve on as many of the committees as some of the others do. That never limited his contribution to our board and to our community. He was a key member of the negotiations team when we worked through the Berkeley Heights and Mountainside send-receive relationship, which we are in the middle of. And again, he was a great partner with us through all of that. I'd say the one trait that I'll remember most about Dante is he is a relatively soft-spoken guy and doesn't speak that much, but when he does, I find the things that he shares very insightful and often makes me think a little differently. So Dante, I have nothing but thanks for you and everything you've done for our board, and you have our gratitude for representing Mountainside and all the Mountainside community on the Governor Livingston board. And I will turn it over to you briefly, Dante.
Thank you, Doug. I don't think my wife would say I don't speak that often, but that was a nice comment nonetheless. You know, when I showed up at Berkeley Heights 9 years ago, I really didn't know what to expect. At the time, we were dealing with the state had cut our funding. I didn't know anyone on the board, so those were really difficult times. I really thought the second time around it would be much easier, and then COVID hit. So I have no doubt that this board that's going to continue, the new members will have their new challenges. So I wish everyone best of luck. But I just like to say that all the board members I've served with up at Berkeley Heights, it's been a great honor. I see John and Dennis are here. Judy Ratner's here. It was a great pleasure to serve with them as well as serve with everyone's here. And thank you for for allowing me to be a part of your team. It was a great experience, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dante.
Thank you, Dante.
I have a brief resolution to read, which if it was in slightly different times, I would be reading this and handing this to Dante. But the resolution reads as follows. Whereas Dante Joy is a resident of Mountainside, New Jersey, whereas Dante has been a member of the Berkeley Heights Board of Education, dedicating himself to providing for the educational needs of the students in the Berkeley Heights Public Schools, whereas Dante served in the position of the Mountainside rep, the Board of Ed from October 2011 to January 2013, and again from January 2019 to December of 2020. He's been a valued contributor to the Berkeley Heights Board of Ed, as well as the chair of the Athletics and Co-Curricular Committee. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Berkeley Heights Board of Ed hereby recognizes Dante Joya for his contributions to the students of the Berkeley Heights Public Schools and thanks him for his service to the communities of Mountainside and Berkeley Heights. Be it further resolved that the Berkeley Heights Board of Ed wishes Dante continued success and happiness in all his future endeavors, signed and sealed this 3rd day of December in the year 2020. Dante, thanks again for everything you have done for us.
Thank you.
The next person we're going to honor is going to be Jerry Crisanino, and the board has asked Chris Riley to speak a little bit on Jerry's behalf. Chris.
I just want to make sure everyone can hear me clearly before I begin.
Yes, we can.
I am privileged tonight to have the opportunity to recognize and thank my colleague and friend, Dr. Gerard Crisanino, known to most of us as Jerry, for his distinguished service to the Berkeley Heights Board of Education. Joining us tonight are Jerry's wife, Holly, and his daughter, Bridget. So I'd like to say a special welcome to you both and thank you on behalf of all of my fellow board members for the many hours you have gone without your husband and your father over his many years of service. We are truly grateful. A little background. Jerry spends his days serving as Director of Special Education for the Jersey City Public School System, where he is responsible for the educational, social, and emotional well-being of literally thousands of students in the 2nd largest school system in New Jersey. He joined the Berkeley Heights Board of Education in 2005 and has served with distinction for over 15 years in a variety of capacities, including previous board vice president for 5 years and as a chair or a member of many, many board committees. In addition to serving on the full board with Jerry for over 5 years, I have worked closely with him on the strategic planning, finance, and facilities committees. I know I speak for all of us on both the board and in the administration when I say that it is abundantly clear that this board has had the extreme good fortune to have had one of the most respected and recognized educators in New Jersey bring the wealth of his knowledge and experience to our governance and oversight decision-making responsibilities. His extensive expertise will be greatly missed. But Jerry, I hope you understand, none of us are deleting your phone number. On a more personal note, besides his many professional accomplishments and his passion for public education, Dr. Cristanino is first and foremost a true gentleman scholar, and in my mind, part philosopher, as he's always seems to quietly but keenly focus on the big picture and the big questions. Of course, he is very smart and accomplished, but most notably, he is humble and kind, like the song. And because of that, he has been a collaborative partner who is constructive with his input and feedback, and who always tries to help this board find our way to consensus, even in times of spirited, albeit healthy dissent. And yes, folks, there are those times. But more than anything else, what is hard for anyone to miss about Jerry Cristanino is his devotion to his family. I've sat next to my colleagues since I joined this board, and over the years, yes, we have shared our side stories with one another. So I know how much he loves his wife, Holly, because she is at the center of everything Jerry. And I know how proud he is of his daughter, Bridget, the talented singer, dancer, actress, and lover of the arts, who is unquestionably the apple of Jerry's eye. So as much as we will miss you, Jerry, I am very happy you will have a lot more time now to spend with the people that you love and care about most. On behalf of the Berkeley Heights Board of Education, I wish you good luck and good health. And I thank you so much for all that you have done for our schools over these past 15 years. It's been an honor to serve with you. Enjoy your life, and Godspeed, my friend.
Great, Chris, thank you very much. I am going to, Bridget Cristanino, I'm going to unmute you right now. So as Chris just said, Bridget, his daughter, a proud graduate of government and a outstanding example of the fine arts that we have at our school, is going to speak. Bridget, I turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Reinstein and members of the Board of Education. Hi, Dad. It's truly an honor to speak on behalf of my father, a man who served on this for our schools for the past 16 years. More than half of my life, my father has served on this incredible board. Long before I was born, my parents followed the Berkeley Heights School District news, ratings, and curriculum, so it was no surprise that my father became involved. He first served as a member of the Curriculum and Strategic Planning Committee as a parent representative, and then graduated to the Board of Education. Dad, throughout my lifetime, you have been an unbelievable source of inspiration and showing me firsthand every day what it means to be a contributing member of our society through the demonstration of your numerous attributes, including, but not limited to, kindness, compassion, wisdom, courtesy, and the sharings of one's gifts for the benefits of others. I am most fortunate to have benefited from these qualities, and surely the students, faculty, administration, and families of the district have benefited as well. The knowledge and the expertise you have shared with our community during your tenure may come to some as a surprise, and you will likely not be comfortable with me sharing these accomplishments tonight. But as your daughter, it is my right and honor to brag, as I have been able to witness the depth of your commitment to this board, just like your chocolate mousse. So, over the years, it has not only been your local activities as vice president, liaison to the Berkeley Heights Education, member of the Strategic Planning Committee, finance, facilities, curriculum, and this one gave all of us a laugh, the athletic committees. It is above and beyond efforts that you have made and your contributions to the schools and this community that make it so significant. As an active member of the New Jersey School Boards Association, you have served on the Special Education Committee and the Mental Health Committee. Mom and I could never keep track of what you're doing next. I'm never sure if it's a group you're presenting to at a conference, a podcast, or a monthly meeting where you present on special education or the responsibilities to uphold as Board of Education members. I know you will miss those events, and I'm so very proud that you're the recipient of the New Jersey School Board's Exceptional Leadership Award for 2020. As your daughter and as a member of this community, I am thankful for both your commitments to and your representation of our board beyond this locality. Your career accomplishments in education and the added knowledge from these activities that you have brought back to this school district serve as a clear demonstration of your commitment and your love to this community. Through your service as the Assistant Superintendent for Special Education for Jersey City Public Schools, you've brought to the table your broader perspective and your commitment to education in all discussions of this honorable board. Many nights I hear you up late connecting with educators from other districts and diverse communities where you share ideas and encourage one another. Our district has also benefited from your participation in the New Jersey Association of School Administrators, where you serve as chair to the Special Education Committee. You have testified before the New Jersey Office on Public Schools, participated in crafting and responses to proposed legislative bills, presented at state conferences, and served on the executive committees of both the New Jersey Association of School Administration and Pupil Services Administrators. I know he does a lot. I told you I have many reasons to be proud. But my favorite of all your efforts is the contributions you bring as a long-standing member of the Every Student Succeeds Act Committee to the New Jersey Department of Education. At this point, I know I'm already in a lot of trouble for giving you the credit you deserve, so I will not mention all the awards or appointments. However, I just want to add that my personal observations of your commitment to our schools, your support of all the employees of our district, your support of the arts, and the example you provide in choosing what you love and giving it your all make me very, very proud. While I was a student, I was keenly aware of your work with your fellow board members and supporting the superintendent's efforts to make sure that we always had every tool we needed during both mine and my classmates' success. All those years ago when I was dreaming what I might grow up to be, you always challenged me by asking, why not go for the job that's one position higher? Why not choose the degree that's one further? Why not look into a specialty? Big questions for an 8-year-old, but they stemmed from your desire to foster my ambitious goals as a young woman. As a recipient of your undying love and faith, I am so proud of your commitment to the education of the students of this community. Where we would like to say thank you, it would only serve as an understatement, the devotion you have displayed to our whole community. Thanks, Daddy. I love you, and I'm so glad I was able to be a BMK, a board member kid.
Wow, Bridget, fantastic. Thank you very much for speaking. Jerry, it's going to be tough to follow that act, Jerry.
I'm telling
Well,
you, you know, when.
Wait, I don't read the resolution now?
No,
Oh, okay.
Jerry's going to speak and then you can.
Go,
read the rest.
Jerry.
Okay, thanks, Doug, my board and administrative colleagues, and the public for allowing me to speak. Chris, you know how much I'll miss you. You have been my partner on the board, and thank you for the kind words. I know we'll be talking later, so I won't go into how I feel about you, but you know that. Bridget, I didn't know what you were going to say. I thought you would take a few swipes at me, so I'm very happy. Thank you, sweetheart. I'm very proud of you and your mother, and without both of you, I cannot do anything. So thank you. And I don't know if you got into my computer and looked at my resume, because I don't know how you know all this stuff, but you know, somehow you did, and I appreciate it. Thank you. I just have a few words, if I may. Like it was said, in 2005, I was first appointed to the board following the resignation of Dr. Janet Prince upon the encouragement of Dennis Smalley, Jeff List, and Johnson Caglia. Since that time, I had the privilege of working beside a wonderful group of dedicated individuals whose sole goal was to make the educational lives of the students of Berkeley Heights much better, while preparing them to enter our community as productive, contributing citizens. And I think this we all have done well. Through my tenure, I have worked with outstanding educators from Dr. Baza, Judy Ratner, Donna Falzola, Scott McKinney, Pat Quashie, and our current superintendent, Dr. Early, as well as all of one building and central office administrators that I have come to hold in great esteem. Berkeley Heights was and is certainly blessed to have such an outstanding group of educators. No public school system can be successful the support of creative and business office staff. And we are fortunate to have an extraordinary group of individuals who are the backbone of the day-to-day operations, and even put up with board members like me who misplace paperwork and repeatedly need to be reminded of time-sensitive tasks that I might miss without your reminders. You have saved me on numerous times, and I do thank you. One of my favorite duties as a board member has always been to chair the Teacher of the Year Award, since I always did and still believe that the educators, paraprofessionals, support staff, and all our other employees are the heart of the Berkeley Heights Public Schools. They make us great. My work with the Berkeley Heights Ed Foundation, even in despite of the long sessions when they review grants, the PTA, and other parent and community support groups, have shown me that our own little world of Mayberry is a very special place. My board colleagues, while it seems that we are often in agreement publicly, as Chris said, we know that we have our scrapes and disagreements, but they are all in the quest to make certain that our students receive an excellent education, and one that Berkeley Heights has come to be known for. I have learned from each and every one of my esteemed colleagues, current and prior, and please know that I will always respect each of you for your commitment and dedication. You cannot put a group of passionate, determined individuals together without some disagreement, but we have always managed to respect each other, and I, in particular, cannot think of a more professional and student-minded group of people to have worked with all these years. I don't want to get into naming each of the board colleagues over the years, because I'm sure I will momentarily forget someone. But I do want to make a specific note to our grand lady of the board, Helen Kirsch, who has been on the board longer than any of us, and who, just as an aside, did not vote for me when I first was appointed to the board, but has since become a very good friend and a personal mentor to me on boardmanship. To my beloved wife, Holly, and daughter, Bridget, who put up with all those late night meetings and phone calls that was mentioned before, I know you were secretly happy that I was occupied, so I couldn't be bothering you. Please know that the day you dreaded is at hand, and I will now have extra time to fully immerse myself in all of your business. So thank you once again to Doug, Bill, Chris, my partner, Helen, Mike, Angela, and Dante. It's been a wonderful ride. I leave knowing the board is in great hands, and I welcome Robert and Joy and wish them all the wonderful experiences I have had all these years. The Berkeley Heights Public School is a very special place, and it has been my honor to be even a small part of it. Thank you all very much, and I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you.
Jerry, thanks very much. Okay, Chris, you can read the resolution.
Okay, brace yourself for all these whereases, Jerry. But before I read this, I have to say, I knew you were a hot steaming deal and everything, but after listening to Bridget tonight, clearly she is your greatest accomplishment. So kudos. Whereas Dr. Gerard Crisanino, Jerry, is a resident of Berkeley Heights, and whereas Jerry has been a member of the Berkeley Heights Board of Education, dedicating himself to providing for the educational needs of the students in Berkeley Heights Public Schools, and whereas Jerry has served with distinction as a member of the Berkeley Heights Board of Education from April 2005 through December of 2020. And whereas Jerry has been very involved in the Berkeley Heights community and has raised and educated his daughter within our school system. And whereas Jerry has been a valued contributor to the Berkeley Heights Board of Education for 15 years, including his participation in the work of the following committees: Curriculum Instruction Chair, Long Range Planning Chair, Finance, Facilities, Athletics, Co-curricular Activities, Strategic Planning, Personnel, and has been the board education liaison to the Berkeley Heights Education Foundation and the Berkeley Heights Township And whereas Jerry has guided the Berkeley Heights Public Schools, serving in a leadership role for 5 years as the Board of Education Vice President. And whereas Jerry's position as Director of Special Education for Jersey City Public Schools has brought a unique insight to the Berkeley Heights Board of Education, unfailingly advocating for special education. And whereas Jerry has actively participated in the District Educator of the Year selection process for many, many years. And now therefore be it resolved that the Berkeley Heights Board of Education hereby recognizes Dr. Gerard Cristanino for his contributions to the students of the Berkeley Heights Public Schools and thanks him for his service to the communities of Mountainside and Berkeley Heights. And be it further resolved that the Berkeley Heights Board of Education wishes Jerry continued success and happiness in all of his future endeavors. Signed and sealed this 3rd day of December, 2020. Thank you, Jerry. We'll miss you.
Thank you, everybody. Miss
Thank you,
too.
Chris. And the last
Thank you,
person,
Jerry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
and the last person that we will honor tonight is Bill Cassano. I guess I'll start out by saying that when I talked to Bill a few months ago about this retirement night and the fact that we were going to honor him for his dedication to the board, his first comment to me is, do we really have to do this? Can't we just honor Jerry for his long service and Dante for what he's doing? Do we really have to go through this? So yeah, well, we do. It's kind of, you've been a participant, you've done a lot. So, okay. So if you think back now, if you rewind the clock back to 2014, Paul Beiser, a good friend of mine, decided to retire after serving on the board for 19 years. Jerry, who was also up for re-election that year, decided to rerun. But those are the only two people, he was the only person, Jerry was, in the community who ran for the board. There was literally 2 open seats and only 1 person running. And Bill Cassano chose to run by write-in campaign. So Bill actually was a write-in candidate and got, I don't recall how many votes, I didn't actually go look that up, but enough of a write-in votes, 2. He got 2 likely from himself and either his wife or one of his 4 children. I don't know if any of them were voting eligible at that time. I suspect not, maybe 1. In any case, and he's really never looked back from that first day on. Bill served on the board for 6 years. And I can tell you that I have absolutely nothing but gratitude, appreciation, and a heartfelt, enormous thank you for your contribution, for your dedication, and your passion for improving our educational system. There is no doubt in my mind that the students of this township have been well served by Bill's tenure on the board. Those that know Bill, he is passionate. He will even tell you sometimes passionate to a fault, but he's passionate about what he believes in, and we'll talk to you at length about what he believes and why he believes it to make our community better. I can tell you that, and you'll hear me say that Bill has served on countless committees and liaisons. Whenever there's a committee that needs an extra board member, Bill is the first person to volunteer to do that. But his value to our district and his value to our students is far greater than the actual committees that he served on. He has served as the vice president, a very understated role for the last 5 years. And to say that he has partnered with me as a wingman would be a vast understatement. There have been multiple dozens, and probably more than that, decisions that have had to be thought through over the past several years. And whether it was this year around the pandemic challenges that we faced, whether they were budgeting priorities, whether it was collective bargaining approach, whether it was different ways to look at student achievement, the list goes on and on. He has expanded my way of thinking about things. He has challenged the board. He's challenged the administration to think differently. And he is the first one to actively participate as a board member. He doesn't just give a suggestion and offer a comment. He is the first one to dig into the details and participate where appropriate. I can tell you, having served on this board now for slightly over 15 years, Bill is somebody who brings every single day his love for this community, for the students, for the staff, and truly wants to do everything in his power to make this a better ecosystem. Sometimes his passion rubs some people the wrong way, He has done that before, as some of my fellow board members are surprised, but he does it out of passion. And I think anybody who knows Bill and knows what he believes in, even if you don't agree with him, he's doing it for the right reasons. He's had the benefit of having his children go through both the Berkeley Heights public schools and some of the private schools. He brings a unique perspective of how things are done elsewhere. He's brought in some of his experience, his work experience, to help the public system. And he's just been an absolute treasure to everything we've done as a board. Bill, I have nothing but thanks on behalf of the board, on behalf of the community. You have done so much for our schools district, our school system. And I can tell you personally that you will be sorely missed on the board. And again, you have our thanks for 6 years of really contributing in a way that many people don't see. Bill, thanks again. We appreciate everything you've done to serve the board.
Thank you. That's very nice. Actually, what I said to Doug was, I don't think I want to do that. It's like being at your own funeral, and it felt like that. So, but you know, you find yourself thinking back to that time when I decided to mount a write-in campaign, and I would tell people I was running for the board, and it was really interesting to me how similar people's comments were. And the number one comment people made was, that's a thankless job. And I can honestly say that my experience has been that is far from the truth. The people of Berkeley Heights have thanked me all the time for being on the board. People go out of their way, they send me texts, they send me emails. I've actually gotten a couple of emails since this meeting started. And impromptu conversations, about what's going on with the board, invariably end with people saying thank you. The other thing that people said to me was, it's very difficult to make a difference. And while there are some things that, and you could probably name them, that I've wanted to get done that remain undone, I certainly feel as though I was able to make a difference. The board is a deliberative, collaborative institutions. The board's accomplishment that I am proudest of being a part of is hiring of our new superintendent. I had already grown confident that she was the right long-term choice for the district prior to the issues that we've faced with COVID, but I have been even more impressed with the strength and the patience and the grace that she's demonstrated during this challenge. And she is both an excellent administrator and and more importantly, a very strong leader. And I hope that she continues to be a benefit for our district for a very long time to come. More recently, people have asked me, do you enjoy being on the board? And when I stop laughing, I say, well, that's not really the right question. You don't enjoy being on the board, but I'm glad I did it, and I feel very good about having done it. I'd like to thank my soon-to-be former colleagues. While and this seems to be a theme, while we didn't always agree with everything with each other, I know that you each operate with thoughtfulness and integrity in your pursuit of a better district. And I have benefited from each of your opinions, and the district has benefited from all of our opinions. Berkeley Heights is very lucky to have each of you on the Board of Education. I especially want to thank Doug for the amazing amount of energy and time and commitment he brings to his consensus building style. You're certainly, one of the hidden assets of both the school district and the town of Berkeley Heights. This is a challenging time for the district, but I'm confident that the board in its new form, the district leadership, the central office workers, the administrators, and the staff are up to the challenge of providing the best education possible under these circumstances. And it would be great to see some of the lessons, tools, and skills that we've developed as a result of these challenges adopted to make the district stronger going forward. I have nothing but good feelings about my 6 years on the board, and I thank you all.
Thank you so much, Bill. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Bill. I just got a message from Bobby Pierre, who tells me, Bill, 238 people voted for you back in 2014. So 238 people.
Quick anecdote. The person who got the second most votes, and I am not kidding, was Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I don't know what to think about that, but
I just want to say to the three of you, the accolades and remarks tonight are just because you've been there for us, for the community, for the kids in this town, and a big thank you from all of us.
I will just quickly read the last resolution, similar to the others, whereas Bill Cassano is a resident of Berkeley Heights, whereas Bill's been a member of the Berkeley Heights Board of Education, providing the educational needs for the students of Berkeley Heights, where he served as a member of the Board of Ed from January 2015 through December of 2020, whereas Bill's been an active member of the Berkeley Heights community and has raised and educated his children within our school system. He's been a valued contributor to the Board of Ed for 5 years, including his participation on negotiations, strategic planning, HIV, Mountainside, personnel, communications, PTO area council, PTO curriculum, technology, as well as the Board of Ed liaison for HIV in the town council and the Ed Foundation. In addition, he's guided the public schools in the last 5 years as vice president. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Berkeley Heights Board of Ed hereby recognizes Bill Cassano for his contribution to the students of Berkeley Heights Public Schools and thanks him for his service to the communities of Mountainside and Berkeley Heights. Be it further resolved that we wish him continued success and happiness in all his future endeavors. Signed and sealed this third day of December. Bill, Dante, Jerry, thank you again on behalf of the board and the community for everything you have done. With that, Dr. Varley, I turn the rest of the superintendent report over to you. And which one are we doing first?
We are doing the teacher leadership cohort with Dr. Christy O'Connor.
Okay, so let me unmute Christy.
I think you are going to have to make her a co-host so she can.
I've unmuted you, Christy, so you can go. Can all the board members also go on mute? Prevents the background noise as well while Christy is presenting. Christy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Would it be possible to be able to share my screen, please?
Done.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Christy O'Connor, and I am here today to talk to you about a professional development initiative in Berkeley Heights called our Teacher Leadership Cohort. For the next 30 minutes, I'm going to explain to you a little bit about why we introduced this work and how it connects to some of the challenges that we're facing today, as well as the specific program that is in Berkeley Heights, what we said we would do and what happened with the pandemic, and what we are working on moving forward. So I want to thank Dr. Farley and the Berkeley Heights Board of Education for having me here tonight. And I also want to thank all of the teachers and administrators who participate in the cohort alongside of us. About a year ago, I was here with you to introduce this program and to explain the rationale, research base, and intentions of our work together. I'm here today to update you, and I will provide a little bit of context because I recognize that there are some new faces in the audience or on the board. And I will conclude with some results of some studies that have been done on this program. The world we are living in is changing at a very rapid pace. The American school system is also changing and making adjustments to traditional practices in order to better prepare our students for a globally competitive workforce. Nowhere is that more true than right here in New Jersey, a state that consistently ranks the first or the second top state for education in the country. I want to highlight just 3 challenges that are present in 21st century education and that merit the demands that are demanding and that merit the need for teacher leadership as a way to rationalize our approach and also contextualize some of what's happening in our schools behind the scenes. One challenge is that, as is evidenced through policies such as Every Student Succeeds Act and No Child Left Behind, our analysis of our students' performance compared to international testing data concludes that American students are falling short when compared to similar districts. As a result, we introduced new learning standards that were more rigorous. And consequently, we asked our teachers to learn new approaches for teaching math, to integrate literacy into social studies and science, and to meet new and demanding benchmarks. A second challenge that our educators are facing is our nation's shift in population. America has become more diverse. There has been an explosive increase in English language learners or students with limited English proficiency. And there is a greater divide between high and low income families. And there are even a larger number of students who have individualized education plans or IEPs. This means for our teachers that now, not only do they have more rigorous standards to teach to, but they are tasked with supporting and differentiating the needs of students across a broad spectrum, from those with limited English, those with IEPs, and those who are gifted and talented. A third challenge that we're currently facing in our education systems, and perhaps the one that's most pressing on our mind, is the current global pandemic. Recently, homeschooling has become a reality for the world, and we are asking our teachers to practice social distancing, to teach students how to read and conduct experiments all on the computer, and maybe most importantly, to build community and create relationships in new ways, since we must be 6 feet apart, maintain social distancing, and ask every day if we're going to be in person or virtual as we learn. As we listen, we are hearing our most dedicated, our most experienced teachers saying they feel like a first-year teacher over and over again. Simultaneously, in May, our nation's streets filled with protests and public outcries for equity. We are asking our schools and our teachers to also make curricular changes, engage in culturally responsive training, and analyze reading libraries and texts that are being shared with students. These demands are not all the same. In fact, these challenges are considered adaptive and mixed challenges. Heifetz defines these challenges as being problems that we do not have a solution for, and that no one person can change, but instead they require cultural and systemic change and collaboration across many different leaders. We need teacher leaders so that we can meet the demands of today, so that we can teach more rigorous content to make sure that our students are prepared for a globally competitive workforce, so that we can address systems of equity, so that we can differentiate our instruction to meet the demands and the needs of all of our learners, and to even be able to handle pandemic and virtual teaching. The recommendation for this is that our teachers lead alongside our administrators. And because our teachers are shown as the single most influential factor in the quality of education. That being said, there's a challenge again. This challenge is that our teacher leaders are trying to enact this work in our school systems, which are traditional and maintain a culture of egalitarianism. What this means is that, to dig into this for a moment, is that historically, our American school system is not naturally a place of collaboration or shared leadership. It is actually the opposite and still has origins of a one-room schoolhouse. Our teachers are most used to working in silos or closing the door and doing their own thing. Principals are looked to as the sole leaders of the building. And when teachers try to lead, research shows that they meet tremendous resistance. One of the most significant barriers is a lack of understanding from administrators and a culture of egalitarianism or sameness. What this means is that everyone is equal, separated only by years of experience. And this culture is known to make sharing ideas, leading initiatives, and collaboration very challenging, as teachers often don't want to stand out amongst their peers and sometimes even face backlash and pressure to do so. This culture is not just an American phenomenon. This is a school cultural aspect. As in a second analogy, I'll describe a term that is used in Australia and New Zealand called tall poppy syndrome. All of the poppy flowers in a field grow at a similar pace and are usually of equal height. When one grows faster than others, it is called the tall poppy. And in a culture of egalitarianism, this tall poppy is mocked and cut down to be equal with others. The goal of the teacher leadership cohort that is currently underway in Berkeley Heights is to equip a cohort of teachers with the internal capacities and the tools needed to change the cultures of traditional schools, to make their schools be more collaborative, to feel comfortable and skilled to overcome these egalitarian norms, to share the expertise that we know that they have, to model and to lead, and to help each other better manage their workload and balance the demands of 21st century teaching. The teacher leader cohort in Berkeley Heights is designed to provide developmental training to a group of 26 teacher leaders over the course of 3 years. Our professional development is developmental, which means it's designed to build internal capacities and engage in something called transformational learning. As teachers engage in this, please know that this program is built on research from Robert Keegan's constructive development theory and Ellie Drago-Severson's learning-oriented leadership model, both of whom are from Harvard, and Ellie Drago-Severson leads 2 full-day workshops for our teacher leaders each year. I would like to preface this overview with a reminder that change is slow and that this type of developmental growth is a multi-year process, which has been impacted by the pandemic as we are about to engage in our year 2 curriculum in January. In year 1, we focused on the concept of teacher leadership and what it means to be a leader. We learned about the technical, mixed, and adaptive challenges that I introduced to you at the beginning of our presentation. And we also learned about learning-oriented leadership, a developmental approach to leading and learning in schools. We began this work by increasing our own self-awareness and learning about developmental diversity. Developmental diversity is the notion that just like there is ethnic and racial and religious diversity, there's also diversity in the ways in which adults make sense of the world. And typically, adults make sense of the world in 4 primary meaning-making systems. When we recognize our own meaning-making system and we recognize that of others, we're able to differentiate our approach and have more effective relationships, collaboration, and an understanding of ourselves. In year 2, which will start in January, we will begin by applying this developmental approach to our work with others in our teams and through our collaboration. We will do this by learning teaming protocols such as setting norms, establishing check-ins, and we will also administer a team survey and set improvement goals. We will learn how to manage conflict on our teams and help teachers to find their voice and have critical conversations. Finally, we will engage in a book club where we will continue to grow our own self-awareness and that of others and learn the strengths of ourselves and of others. It is important to note that every single one of our sessions is an example of a developmentally intentional meeting. What this means is that we use all of these approaches that we teach our teachers. They not only learn about them, but they also experience them. And we try to create something called a holding environment, or a place where we can support and challenge others to reflect and to grow. As our teachers experience and learn about the intentionality of these practices, research in former districts have revealed that the teacher leaders have brought these practices back to their teams and their schools. This is based on data from not only the teachers themselves, but also building and district level administrators. While professional development approaches in schools and the influence of professional development as a whole is very difficult to study and measure, I do want to highlight 2 specific studies and share some of the qualitative implications of this work. In the Florham Park School District, findings revealed that as participants experienced a holding environment or developmentally intentional team meetings, they did feel supported, they felt challenged, and they utilized what they learned to bring to others. We also learned that participants changed the way they saw things. They changed the way they saw themselves as they came to see themselves as having the power to lead. They changed the way they defined leadership as not being a bad thing, those egalitarian norms again, to being one where they saw themselves as a leader. And finally, they changed their perspective from not valuing collaboration to seeing it be a powerful way for them to work with others. Not only did working together help them in terms of how they shifted their perspective and how they led others, but 10 out of 13 participants also stated that it reduced their stress load even as they assumed greater responsibilities. And yes, all of the participants reported feeling more empowered and they assumed additional leadership responsibilities. The administrators in these districts reported that the teacher leaders positively influenced the district. They used the terms ripple effect and lifted the bar as they explained the way that they elevated professionalism and practices of collaboration. In the Summit Public School District, a study was also done on this program. This study centered around efficacy and empowerment, and they found that teachers felt more confident and empowered to make decisions. They felt as though they had more of an impact and it increased their professional growth. They explained that the training gave them knowledge and confidence to identify school level concerns, and they also engaged in leadership roles as they delivered professional development sessions, and they obtained a more positive attitude towards teaching and training. Both studies incorporated administrators who attested that this influence had a positive impact on student achievement. Simultaneously, the test scores in both districts did increase, although that is not something that we can directly connect to this work and can only make a casual connection to. This work of a teacher leadership cohort stands on the shoulders of other larger studies that did impact the way that teacher leadership impacts students. For instance, there were higher levels of retention reported, student achievement increased, and perhaps most impactful, a study from UPenn showed that even when we took into consideration poverty, school size, and location, schools that had high levels of teacher leadership averaged at least 10 percentile points higher in both math and English language arts. To capture the results of the teacher leader cohort in Berkeley Heights, myself, Dr. Varley, and Ellie Drago-Severson will be creating and working with the Florham Park Curriculum Committee the Berkeley Heights Curriculum Committee to administer a survey to measure the data and growth from our work together. However, it's important to note that while we can't exactly measure the power of less stressed teachers, teachers who feel more empowered or more collaborative in productive team meetings, we know that the way to our kids is through our teachers. And that if our teachers are working more effective, if our teachers are supported, and if our teachers feel equipped with the tools that they need to be able to tackle the great challenges that are present in our schools today, that is going to manifest itself to our students, because everything that we do, including a teacher leader cohort, is all about our kids. On my final note, I'd like to thank you for investing in teacher leadership. It is an investment. It's an investment in resources. It's an investment in time. It's an investment in shifting our mindset and looking for smarter ways to work together. But the return will be significant. And I want to thank the Board of Ed, Dr. Varley, and all of the teacher leaders who give us the gift of your time and your support to do this work. And if anybody has any questions, I am happy to answer anything that you might have.
Great, Christy, thank you very much. Questions from the board?
This is Mike. You mentioned some of the great results from other districts, but what is the measurable goal that you see for Berkeley Heights?
I think that the word measure gets tricky here, right? And we always want to measure in schools, and then we always hear 1,000 reasons why it's so tricky. So I think that at the end of the day, we want for our teachers what they want for themselves, right? But our teachers they're working really hard. They're stressed, they're burnt out. And when our teachers feel like they don't have a team where they can collaborate or they can share and divide their workload, that adds to the stress. So I think one hope for outcome is similar to those findings that were found in Summit and in Florham Park, in that our teachers actually feel reduced stress. The way that they do that, though, is by learning more effective tools to collaborate, by actually being willing to have critical conversations on their teams to make them be places where work is getting done and time is used effectively. It's also about having teachers find their voice. In both studies, more than the majority of our teachers said that they didn't feel comfortable speaking up. As we're looking at ways to work smarter, to integrate content area, to address issues of equity, we need our teachers' voices because they know our students better than we do. And so I think that if at the end, our teachers are using their voices, collaborating best, while we can't measure it, and we could say that simultaneously test scores increased, if we have happier teachers and more productive teachers, I think that we'll have happier and more productive classrooms and students.
And what happened?
Work, we've had it going on, even pandemic. The time like this for you guys to recognize it and to listen and to learn alongside us is just incredible. Dr. Varley supporting and bringing this work here and believing in professional development and taking the time to not just give teachers, more new programs, which I know Mary Beth is going to talk about and is also important, but also giving them the tools to manage learning new things and collaborating and working together is above and beyond, and I think makes you guys one of the very few districts that are willing to do that type of work, because it is an investment and we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions from board members? Chris?
Yeah, so Christy, so we identified 26 teachers, which is slightly less than 10% of our teaching population, right? And it sounds like we're coming to the end of year one of a 3-year professional development experiment or investment. I was unclear from listening to your comments. Have we actually queried our teaching cohort to get their feedback yet on how they feel that this year has gone? I can imagine it's difficult with COVID to really kind of zero in on this without a lot of noise from other very major factors. But so my first question is have we done that yet? Because I wasn't sure if we had. I thought you were talking about Florham Park and Summit when you did survey the teachers. And then my second question is, how do we leverage all this? So I'm hoping you're not going to tell us that we wait until the end of year 3, that somehow this is, cumulative. Do we see this group through for 3 years, and each year are we selecting a new cohort, or are we just hoping that we're able to leverage the development of these teachers and it becomes kind of insidious? I know that's a lot.
No, it's wonderful.
I could ask you a lot of questions, but I'll just stop with those 2.
I'm happy to answer your questions. So before we left, before the pandemic, we were checking on the pulse of the teachers and we were doing exit surveys at the end of every session. Doug and I had a great conversation, and we are going to be administering a survey before our next PD in January, which officially starts our year 2 of the cohort. And just to clarify, the number 26 includes administrators and teachers. And the reason for that is that actually comes from research from Linda Darling Hammond, that best practices in professional development need to have administrators present. Secondly, teacher leadership often fails if administrators don't understand how to support their teacher leader. So that's super impactful, important, and something that also is not done in most places. To answer your question about how we leverage this, there is not pressure or assignments put on teachers. We say to them, we want for you what you want for yourselves. What we found in the other districts, and I can explain the model as well, is that after we worked with one cohort of teachers, They went back and they started bringing back some of these practices organically because they wanted to, right? So they did things like bringing norms into teams, or they administered a survey and said, I think we could work better together. I learned this survey in my teacher leader cohort. Can we give this a try and set an improvement goal? And because we've been modeling all of how to do this from day one of our cohort, they've gone back and brought this work back. And some will bring back more than others. And that is okay, because we're all different. And if we differentiate for our students, we have to differentiate for our teachers. But what we found is that had a very strong impact. And actually, Dr. Varley could probably speak a little bit too about this in Florham Park, and that even teams that didn't have teacher leaders on it wanted to set norms because they started seeing they have and they learned how to deal with maybe that one person who just like talked and took over the whole meeting and prevented everyone from getting work done. We also saw that teachers started asking if they could lead professional development. And as one teacher did, more teachers did. It's a cultural shift. At the end of 3 years, we offered the program again in both Florham Park and in Summit. There were more teachers that wanted to participate than we could offer spots for, and we had to turn them away in Florham Park. And in Summit, we actually ran 2 cohorts. As a result of that, the way that the program has worked is that there's one cohort at a time, and then there's another one. And what happens is gradually more and more of your teachers have this training, and things that we're talking about now that sound a little bit new suddenly become the norms, if you will.
Thank you.
Sure. Dr. Varley, I don't know if you wanted to add anything from the district perspective to answer the question.
I think it's just piggybacking off of Dr. O'Connor. It's just, we saw such a huge shift with teachers actively being engaged in their own learning and, changing the way their team meetings worked, and encouraging other teachers to step up and do more and work harder, or not work harder, work smarter. And it was definitely eye-opening. And that is one reason that I was, my initial discussions in the beginning of when I started here was, we've got to bring this, because it was phenomenal. When the data I saw was phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, this is all about empowerment and, letting our teachers know that, they're the key, and, we want to empower them and support them. So I think it's great.
I have a question, you've already answered it. What was the selection process in the getting the 26 teachers in administration, or was it purely a volunteer process?
I can talk to that a little bit. I think Christy muted herself, Doug, so you may have to unmute her. If I don't know if Angela, I don't know if you remember when I started, we didn't have a contract with the BA. We didn't have a negotiated new contract with the BHEA. So we put out the volunteer, if you want to volunteer for this professional development, and we had a slightly more than the amount we needed volunteer. And then we had them fill out kind of an application process. And through there, the administrative team kind of went through and did some, we couldn't have too many people in there. Obviously, we have to have we can't have that many substitutes. And we did some just selection throughout the application process.
Other questions for Christy before we move on? Great, Christy, thank you very much for the presentation this evening and for your continued involvement. As you can hear, we have great expectations for you and the team as we finish up year 1 and begin to get into the future years. So thanks again for being part of our district.
Thank you. Thank you for all the support.
Great. Dr. Roy, do you want to introduce the next topic?
Absolutely. So we are starting a new program or initiative in our pre-K to 5 buildings. And I'm going to introduce Mary Beth Kopaz, and she is going to do a presentation on our partnership with the Teachers College of Columbia University.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be here this evening with you. I'm going to speak about English language arts in the elementary world on a broader aspect. And then specifically, I'm going to talk about what we call balanced or structured literacy. Often those terms are used interchangeably, and to drill down really specifically to Reader's Workshop and the work that we're going to be doing with Columbia's Teachers College. So what, Mr. Scara, if you could pull up the presentation, that would be great.
You should be seeing it now.
Can you put it on the full screen?
How's that?
Yeah, we can still see the toolbar on the top.
While he does that, Mary Beth, you can keep going.
Yeah, I think that's fine. We can move to the next slide if you would. Thank you, Mr. Scara. So balanced or structured literacy is a comprehensive program of English language arts acquisition. It contains all of the components necessary for students to master written and oral communication. The structure is a balanced literacy approach. It's research-based, and it includes all the aspects, including explicit instruction, guided practice, collaborative learning, and independent reading and writing. This is the practice or the structure that we use in Berkeley Heights, and our Berkeley Heights curriculum addresses each of the areas that make up a balanced or structured approach. We meet or exceed each of the required New Jersey student learning standards in reading, writing, foundational skills, and word study. And when we use the term word study, we mean phonics, spelling, and vocabulary. Next slide. So when you're talking about English language arts in the elementary world, we really have three sections. We have reading instruction, and under reading, we have what's called read alouds, where the teacher is modeling reading. We have shared reading, which is really called interactive reading. Guided reading, where teachers meet in small differentiated groups. We do fluency and comprehension work, and we have independent reading, which we call reading workshop. And we'll talk a little bit more about reading workshop later in the presentation. There's also individual conferencing taking place. And when I use the term conferencing, I'm talking about coaching, and we have book clubs. And if you notice in the writing column, it really mirrors the same way that we teach reading. As teachers, when we have modeled writing, that means, again, I'm modeling or I'm coaching. There's the shared writing or interactive writing, guided writing, again, which is small differentiated grouping, independent writing, where students are engaged in writing workshop, individual conferencing, again, where teachers are coaching and writing across the curriculum. And when I use that term, I mean that students are applying writing skills in other content areas. And then in the last column, we have additional components. We work on foundational skills, print concepts, word study, such as I mentioned, phonics, spelling and vocabulary, grammar usage and mechanics, speaking, listening, media and technology literacy, and inquiry and independent learning. So as you can see, when we use the term English language arts, it's a very large umbrella. If I can drill down and give you specific examples of what this might look like in different grade levels. For example, in grade 5, you might have what's called a book club. And in a book club, students might be reading Number the Stars, discussing the novel with a group of peers. These book clubs are generally student-led, and teachers pop in and out of discussions to coach and assess student understanding. Now, it's important to remember before I go any further that sometimes this has to be tweaked a bit, certainly in these circumstances, in these COVID circumstances, and how we instruct. But obviously, what the examples I'm giving you here are examples of what it would look like in let's say normal circumstances. For independent reading and reading workshop, it's when students read on his or her own level text. Teachers confer with each student individually, and this strategy happens in all grades K to 5. You might hear the term guided reading. When you hear guided reading, it's when small groups work with the teacher on specific skills, and the teacher groups, they read together the same text. In the lower grades, these groups might work on decoding skills or how to make reading more fluent. And then in writing workshop, it's when students are afforded opportunities to write on a topic using the writing process. The workshop might include story writing, opinion writing, or informational nonfiction writing, depending on the unit being taught. Now, to support our work and our continued development in the balanced, structured approach, we've partnered with Columbia Teachers College this year. We had to apply for this, and we were accepted as a partner district, and we're very proud of that. It's one of the largest professional development initiatives the district has ever undertaken. And again, we want to thank Dr. Varley, Mr. McKinney, the Board of Ed members, and the taxpayers for supporting this initiative. What this allows us is we have a partnership that not only allows us to have staff developers come in to train us, but it also offers a plethora of resources for us as we continue to do work with them throughout the year and throughout the oncoming years. Personal teacher college staff developers in each of the elementary schools come to train our teachers. Reading workshop trainings will start in January 2021. We have 5 sessions scheduled for each grade level, and we did push this off a little bit. So if you remember, originally we were going to start this training in September, but we knew that school opening was going to have its own set of challenges. So we decided to focus on school opening first and then push our professional development back a bit. So as I said, we're starting our trainings in January. We're going to focus on topics such as using best practices in reading instruction and assessment, building diverse classroom libraries to encourage reading, and creating specific lessons to support teaching for social justice. And our main goals are to elevate the level of reading, phonics, and content literacy through various avenues, and to support student growth and achievement, and obviously to support Berkeley Heights literacy initiatives. As Dr. O'Connor so beautifully stated, she gave us so much research talking about the importance of investing in our teachers. Research tells us that one highly effective way of advancing student achievement is by investing in teacher professional development. And this is a perfect example of the kind of work, again, that you've afforded us to do. Specifically, if we can go to the next slide. Specifically, Teacher College will support our development in using strategies for the workshop model. This slide shows the basic tenets of workshop philosophy. We learn through doing, we learn through explicit instruction. We're all at different points on the learning curve, and we need to be met where we are. And this is extremely important in the lower grades when children are really developing at different rates and learning to read at different rates. Learning should address real life purposes. Learning should include choice and independence. We all know when there's choice involved, we are much more motivated. And then we thrive when we are part of a community. What's wonderful about the workshop model is that it allows teachers to be actively engaged with students individually or in small groups while providing specific targeted supports.
Mary Beth, thank you very much. Questions from the board?
A couple questions. not only am I a board member, I'm a parent, and I have, everyone knows I have a second grader, fifth grader, and sixth grader, and seeing this, what can we see different going forward? I explained that to me. I guess that's right. What can we see different going forward?
Thank you for that question. It's an excellent question. So there are really two major benefits to this kind of work that we're doing. The first major benefit is that all of the teachers in every classroom will have what's called the units of study, reading units of study. So that's a common resource that every classroom teacher will have. Well, they already have, I should say, and we've already started to delve into these units, and we've also started to do the work where our curriculum is reflecting these units. And these research-based units help us to implement our Berkeley Heights reading curriculum. So that's first and foremost, that we have a common resource. And then I think the second benefit is that there's a commonality across all schools in many other ways. So teachers will now have common language and common professional development experiences. They're going to be working in teams of teachers across the district. There will be common structures and strategies, and that helps students to feel successful. So the kind of language that they hear in kindergarten and first grade when a teacher says, now it's time to go knee to knee and turn and talk, is the same kind of language and structures they'll see in fifth grade. So as this spirals and as the work continues to build, students will feel more and more uncomfortable and more successful in what they do. And also it helps students to build stamina and skills. By the time the students leave us as fifth graders, they're going to feel extremely confident as readers of both fiction and nonfiction. So as parents, I think what you'll start to see is when we talk workshop model, we're teaching students how to choose texts that are just right for them, how to build stamina in reading in both fiction and nonfiction. So those are some things you want to start to see as parents. And again, the commonality across schools and across teachers. You'll start to learn the same language because you'll hear your students or your children using that language. And again, it's going to grow. It will continue to build upon itself and spiral. So I hope I answered your question.
And you did. And then I guess just a follow-up question of, I know I asked the same thing of Christy is, how can you measure this? And I know it's always tough to measure this, but is there a way to measure this? And then second question is, what can we do in addition to supporting this program to help as a board?
Yes, measurement in this is much easier. We have a tremendous amount of benchmark data. We use assessment tools such as Fountas and Pinnell, reading assessment, we have our NJ scores, obviously not from this past spring, but we will continue to have NJSLA data moving forward. So we actually have many measures to grow where students are now and where they're going, and whether the growth in a year's time is greater now that we have implemented this program and this strategy.
Mm-hmm. And then what can we do to help?
Yeah.
Well, again, same, I have to echo Dr. O'Connor's answer. You've already done it. You've supported this initiative financially. If you can continue to support the initiative, this is not a one and done. This is a long journey, and I tell the teachers this. The change will not happen overnight. It definitely is a journey, and it is something that we have to be committed to in the long run. And it's worthwhile when it happens and when it's done correctly. And again, I have to compliment Dr. Varley, Mr. McKinney for bringing it in, and again, compliment the Board of Education, because again, it is a very big investment and it's time consuming and it's a financial investment. But when you look at the districts who have implemented it and the data to support it, it's the right way to go.
And I'll jump in real quick because it has definitely been something that you guys know, if you met with me in the beginning, this is something I pushed early on. every district where I have seen this implemented correctly, our test scores have increased. Some dramatically, some by some. If you're way up there at the top of if you're already at 89%, you don't have very far to go. So I've seen in districts who didn't have the higher scores increase by, in some grade levels, up to 40% as far as their test scores and students proficient. In other districts where the test scores are already high, you see like 4 or 5% or 10 to 11%. So I have never seen it decrease in any district where this has been implemented that I have worked in.
Great.
Can
Chris?
I piggyback on, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can I piggyback on Mike's first question? Because, you know, we're a good school system and, you know, we're doing a lot of good things. So as I listen to this presentation, which seems very substantive, you know, I'm just trying to understand the fundamental or philosophical difference between what it is we're doing now versus what it is we have been doing. And one of the things I heard you say is that, you know, we're going to have common resource, common experience, common language, I'm assuming common curriculum. So that leads me to believe that we didn't have that before. Is that correct? So I just want to make sure I understand, like, this seems substantive. Well, you know, if you could sort of boil this down to the lowest common denominator, what is fundamentally or philosophically different with this approach than what we have been doing historically?
So just,
I'm not sure that's crystal clear to me.
No, okay, thank you. So we have been doing really well in Berkeley Heights. I don't want to give the impression that we haven't been engaging.
No, I know, we want to do even better, right? I think that's great.
So we want to build on what we're doing. And specifically what we're doing, that I think the major change is having the specific units and common resources to implement our curriculum. So we do have a common curriculum.
Across all three buildings. So you're saying across all three buildings?
Four buildings. Four buildings will all have reading workshop units of study.
Exactly the same. And
Exactly.
That's not what we do now.
Correct. Not all resources are common in the four buildings. That is correct.
It's not completely consistent. So the goal here is to have everyone singing off the same song sheet, essentially.
Well, let's be careful. I'm sorry, we just have to be careful when we say that, because if we're meeting the needs of the students sitting in front of us, we have to use different tools and different strategies and different resources to support.
No, I understand what's developmentally appropriate for the individual child. I get that. But the curricula itself will be consistent across the four buildings, which is not necessarily the case historically.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Correct.
Will the program be immersed in all grade levels in all the schools at once? Or will it be introduced incrementally, because you don't want a fifth grader having a language, you know, cohort or words, and they're going to say, what is this? I don't know what it is. Will we start with the little kids and bring the curriculum along with them? Or is it just going, boom, here you go?
Also an excellent question. Thank you for asking it. Our curriculum, our Berkeley Heights curriculum, addresses the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. That's what has to be taught. So I'll give you, for example, a reading unit. In Berkeley Heights, we have a reading informational unit. How we teach reading information right now in the grade levels K to 5 might differ in one school from another school, but we're still teaching the same standards. What's going to change now is that we're all going to use the same reading informational unit that's being provided to us by Columbia Teachers College. So I hope in some ways that answers your question. So when you say, is it all going to be pushed out at once? We're doing it by units. So in January, when fifth grade is jumping into their historical fiction unit, in the past, they've done historical fiction in January, but they've used their own resources. Now in January, when they go into their historical fiction unit, they're going to use the Columbia Teachers College Lucy Calkins reading units of study and use those mentor texts. Students will still be able to choose their own books to read to support their independent reading and to practice learning. But as far as the texts that are being shared with the entire class, there's going to be a commonality across all schools. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great.
I was just thinking of when we did the new math, when, with the new math, and you had a kindergartner that could do it and a fifth grader saying, I don't know what they're talking about.
It won't be that drastic.
Thank you.
Could I comment?
Go ahead, Jerry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm somewhat familiar with this program, having been involved in a district that had utilized this for many years. And one thing we found was the ability to help in transition times for students as they move from grade to grade, or we don't have a lot of transition from building to building, but if that happens, because they do have that common language and the common experience. So I know that it's been very successful, and I think that's one of the benefits when everybody's speaking off of the same page. So I think it's a great program to be implementing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments, questions from the board?
Yeah, I have one more, and that is with regards to informational nonfiction writing. I was very happy to see that. I'm not an educator, so it sounds like you need to start early on this stuff. And so you're putting it into the lower grade curriculum. I would have thought at the very least, we need to have that in the older grades, because clearly it's a deficit that I have seen in business and beyond with graduates in this particular area, informational nonfiction writing. So I was very happy to see that, because I think our kids long-term will benefit from that, regardless of what they do, post high school, post college, if they're stronger in that. So I think that's great.
There's even a major unit in kindergarten.
Wow. So start young.
I have a very quick question. What changes are there going to be to the program with regards to special needs students? Those students that need additional help. Are there going to be any sort of major changes that what you will be doing that you're not doing now?
So naturally differentiating at dependent level. And again, because students are developing at all different levels, and teachers are having time to coach students more individually, it actually supports students with special education students in very effective ways. Teachers have more time to meet in small groups and to do more coaching in a workshop model.
Thank you.
Any other final questions for Mary Beth? Okay, Mary Beth, thank you very much for your leadership in this, and we'll look forward to continual updates, as I'm sure we'll get them from you. Dr. Varley, anything else from you in your superintendent's report?
That concludes my very short superintendent's report.
As such. Okay, liaison reports. Anybody have any liaison reports tonight?
I do. Union County Ed Services, all the schools are operating with their hybrid schedules, except the 2 alternative high schools that, accommodate Elizabeth students. We're almost done with the distribution of 188,000 masks through the state police program. The masks were available to all schools, public, private, whatever. And it was based on the lunch program to target the low-income students. The district procured 60 free hotspots for 5 years for free through a T-Mobile program called Project 10 Million by T-Mobile. And the intent of the program is to provide mobile hotspots and internet access to districts. So all students are ensured to have remote access. The Environmental Commission, you know, there will be space in the gardens, in the community garden. There are some people that are pulling out, and they discussed refunds. Since the program has been resurrected for the thin plastic films, they've collected another 1,100 pounds, totaling almost 14,000 pounds for the community, and that will allow us 3 more benches. They are pursuing the grant from TB Bank for reforestation, and they are still interested in looking at the GL location. Chairman Richard Leister met with the Mayor's Youth Council, and they discussed potential projects to work with the students. There is a perceived lack of recycling in our schools, so they will meet with the administration to discuss that. And there is more recycling going on in our schools than these students thought that there was. And they would like to introduce the Trek program up at the high school to see 1 or 2 benches up at the high school. New Jersey School Boards is offering webinars, podcasts, and Facebook Live events, funding, focusing on the challenges facing boards and districts throughout the pandemic. They are holding virtual programs on sustainable Jersey, and for new board members, a program on roles, responsibilities, and resources. And the virtual conference is still available on demand, so attendees who could not attend programs or want to review programs that they did attend, they are available on demand. That's the end of my report.
Great, thank you, Helen. Any other liaison reports from other board members? Okay, not seeing any, we'll move on. Donna, facilities.
Donna, you're muted.
There we go.
You're muted,
Okay,
Donna.
Who's
all
doing
right.
it?
Unmuted?
No, now you're okay.
Okay, so we're working on the budget, and we're working on the capital budget. So we're planning to budget for a lot of the maintenance projects that have been put off in recent years. And some of these projects include replacing classroom ceilings and floors. We're going to continue with the replacement and repairs to the rooftop fans. We'll again look at paving repairs and upgrades, and we're in the process of getting prices and quotes for these projects. Also door replacements and window repairs. That's it.
Okay, thanks. We will now move to the citizens hearing portion of the meeting. If you are interested in making a comment about this, if you'll use the raise your hand functionality, I will then be able to see you. I will then go ahead and unmute you. You'll get a message to say you can unmute yourself, and then you can speak and ask your question or make a comment. So I'll wait until I see the first hand being raised. I see Kathleen. It says Kathleen's iPhone. Kathleen, I'm going to unmute you.
Hi there, can you hear me?
I can. If you can just give us your full name, Kathleen.
Sure, absolutely. Kathleen Kogan, 44 Pine Grove Road.
Great. Good evening, Kathleen. Welcome.
How are you? Thank you. So my question is more for the ELA curriculum. Because it was my understanding that in the school system that we always used Readers and Writers Workshop, and that there would be a curriculum map that the district was following to begin with. So to hear that the schools are not always aligned with how they're approaching reading and writing, It's concerning because I would just think that that would be the case. Can someone speak to that? If there is a specific guideline or roadmap that the teachers and the schools follow when it comes to teaching reading and writing in
Yes,
the elementary
Kathleen.
schools?
Yes. So just to clarify, as I had mentioned, we have to address the New Jersey Student Learning Standards.
Right.
And we have a Berkeley Heights curriculum. So we do follow the standards. We either meet or exceed all of the standards, and we follow curriculum.
Correct.
In the different schools, sometimes they move their Berkeley Heights units and put them in a different place. So in 1 month, one school may be doing one unit, and in another school, they might be doing a different unit in that, in that same month. So, but we have an overview, we have an overall Berkeley Heights curriculum. And yes, we are using reading, writing workshop. We are not using units of study, Lucy Cohen's units of study. So that is what we're implementing with our partnership with Teachers College.
Correct. Okay, because I would think that, I guess my question or thought would be that, you know, you already have the curriculum in place, maybe see how our current curriculum aligns itself to the Heinemann, the Teachers College curriculum, to see what I can't think of the word that I want to use, what tweaks or what things you could change or alter to maybe make them more aligned. Does that make sense?
I'm glad you said that. We actually already did that work.
Okay.
So the scope and sequence and the pacing guide that the teachers are using this year have aligned the Berkeley Heights units with the Teachers College units, and we've married them this year. So we have actually already done that work.
Okay. So the student from like Hughes, let's say second grader at Hughes, is doing the same work that a student at second grader at Mountain Park is.
We've started doing that work, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Are there other people who, I don't see any other hands raised. I'll pause a little bit. I see another one. Hold on. Michael Bond, I have just unmuted you. Michael, good evening.
Good evening. I'm a 17-year educator out of New York City. I've used a lot of the programs that the district is starting to adopt now. I think you will see some positive results with those new programs. So I do want to congratulate the district on updating their practices with those programs. But what I'm more concerned about at the moment is the districts seem to want to run to remote learning where it's not as nearly as effective as it needs to be. And where the district is happy to have sports events and football games when kids are interacting at inches apart, mask-free, when we don't have kids in classrooms where there has been minimal issue of spread in the school district itself, when outside events are where the problems are beginning. And the mayor's own admission that sporting events are causing the spread, and yet the town and the board are allowing those events to happen. I don't understand the disconnect here.
I'm sorry, is there a specific question?
I don't understand why the Board of Ed is pushing sports and athletics, which the town openly admits is spreading disease, and we're not having kids in school where there isn't spread going on.
Well, the majority of our children are in school, and we have our high school coming back on December 7th. So we are still in school. But we have had a couple of, well, I guess 3 sporting events since the big outbreak that we had at the high school.
So I'm not understanding why football is a priority and children in classrooms are not.
I'm not sure that I don't think that's the truth. I do believe that our kids in school are a priority. I think we've made that very clear, the board, myself, administration, trying to get kids in school. However, we do know that sports are important to children too. They need, some of them, this is their senior year. We wanted to give them that experience in a safe manner and reduced attendees.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Varley. Any other hands being raised We'll pause for a second. I will pause and wait another minute or so. I do see a comment in the chat about making.
I can't tell if Ms. Moretti is trying to raise her hand or if she's clapping. She's trying to raise her hand.
Okay, hold on. I will get you. Lisa, good evening. You should be unmuted now.
Hi, how are you?
Good evening.
I actually only had the clap or the thumbs up, so thank you, Dr. Varley. I appreciate it. I just want to clarify, this is for any topic, correct? Not just specific to the guest presenters?
It is
Okay.
correct.
Okay, thank you so much. So good evening and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Lisa Moretti and I'm the treasurer of the BHEA. I have a brief statement on behalf of the members of the BHEA. Now that the New Jersey COVID-19 regional risk matrix has us firmly in the orange zone, we must heed the state's encouragement to consider implementing fully remote instruction, just as some of our Union County peers have already done. It is time to give students, parents, and the staff some stability as opposed to waiting nightly for the call that we're moving to all remote instruction, either because our region moves to red or because the contact tracing requirements for schools have changed to now include not only those that test positive for COVID-19, but those who have come in contact with someone with COVID-19 symptoms necessitating a closure. Please give the parents and the staff the opportunity to plan for the next few weeks by announcing tonight that the district will move to all remote instruction throughout the holiday season, as this current COVID-19 crisis is becoming more dangerous every day. Thank you, and I hope that all of your families stay safe and healthy during the holiday season.
Lisa, thank you very much for your comments. Lee Timmerman, you're up next. I see that you wanted to speak, so I'm going to unmute you. Lee, good evening. Welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. I did hear the facilities report just now, and I wanted to make sure that my comment of a few meetings ago that somehow we look into putting HEPA filters or look at a study to see how much would cost be built into the budget next year. I didn't hear that mentioned, so I just wanted to reemphasize that as number one. Okay, number two, since Ms. Riley brought it up earlier, I felt the need to comment about a chess club. Being in the township for 45 years, I go back a long way, but 30 years ago, in 1989 and 1990, there was a chess club at GL, a very good chess club. We happen to have the first and second players boards in the state, believe it or not. And they went to nationals both years. In 1989, they finished 18th nationally, I believe. And in 1990, they finished 8th nationally. And no, neither one of those were my sons. He was on the team, but they weren't, he wasn't number one or number two, but he was on the team. And just so you know, we did have a chess club and a very successful one back then. Just a comment.
Thank you for the history lesson. It's great for strategic thinking too.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Timmerman.
And we did not forget about your comment. The budget process is a fairly lengthy process that has many elements to the capital review. And I can assure you, we did not forget about your comment about the filters.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you. I understand that some people might not have the raise your hand functionality depending on what device you are using. So if you don't have that functionality and you do want to speak, you can put a note in the chat window and send a note to me. I will look at that right now, as I don't see another hand raised for right now. So I will hold on that. I do see Mike LeBond. You have obviously a second comment. So Mike, I'll come back to you in a minute. But I want to make sure anybody else who would like to speak for the first time has a chance to do so. Johnson Caglia, I see you. And you're on mute. John, good evening. Welcome.
Yeah, hi, Doug. Doug, you had advised me some time ago that this was going to be the final meeting for the retiring board members. And I wanted to stay on here tonight to recognize them. Let me start with Dante, and I'll go by the length of time I served with him. When Dante first came on, he was a strong advocate for Mountainside, and I know we had a rapid turnover for a while with the Mountainside reps, but he certainly represented Mountainside very well. Just as one anecdote, I know the first night Dante was there, I went up to him and I asked him, by the way, I said, your last name, was your a relative or a long ago relative the superintendent of schools of Patterson? And it turns out it was his grandfather, who was my superintendent of schools growing up in the city of Patterson. So that was kind of an interesting anecdote that we shared. With Bill, you mentioned, Doug, when Paul Beiser decided not to run, and at the time only Jerry was listed as a candidate, those of us who were on the board were quite concerned over who might pop onto the board with just a handful of votes, more than the 2 Bill said he got. But we were blessed with Bill, and I served with Bill in particular on negotiations and on the Mountainside sending receiving relationship. His leadership in both of those was extraordinary. We didn't always agree on everything. Him and I shared a lot of spreadsheets together, but I was sorry to see that he decided not to seek a 3rd term, which then brings me to Jerry, who amazingly decided to seek 1 extra term than he claimed he was going to. Jerry became vice president during the time I was president, and then he stayed as vice president for other years beyond that. Jerry's special ed expertise was invaluable to us. That was very useful to us as board members. The other thing about Jerry that I remember is that, so seeing Bridget there tonight, is always enjoying sitting with Jerry and Holly watching Bridget perform. And she was extraordinary, and Jerry's rightly very proud of his daughter. And again, to all 3 of you, you've given an awful lot to the district. The district has stayed strong because of you, and I congratulate you. And unfortunately, with this pandemic, unlike 4 years ago when I stepped down, and it was a wonderful evening that I was honored with, this is unfortunate that it can't be a little better than this, but given the circumstances, I guess that's the best we can hope for. So congratulations to all of you, and the best wishes to you and to the members of the board very much.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, the best part of retirements was always the crumb cake, and we're just not getting it. So
that is true. I don't see anything else. Michael LeBlanc, I'm going to come back to you because I see you said your hand raised. So I'm assuming you have a second comment. So I will unmute you to share your second comment. And I'll just make a little, hold on a second, Michael. Just for anybody else, if you'll either raise your hand or put a note in the chat window. Oh, go ahead.
Just to come back to what was said by the BHEA, I would encourage the board to reject the inferior product that is. As a teacher doing it myself, what I see with my own students and what I'm learning is an inferior product, and we should maintain schools open as long as possible. There has been minimal transmission in our elementary schools, and the events at the high school were done by irresponsible individuals outside of the buildings. The schools themselves have not been the problem, and they should remain open until the time where they become the problem.
Michael, thank you. Dennis Smalley. Dennis, good evening.
Hey, Doug. How is everybody?
Well, Dennis, welcome. Welcome back.
Thanks. Seems like I never left here at 9:30 at night. Anyway, just going off what John said, what he mentioned is that I got on here tonight to wish Jerry and Bill and Dante good luck. Congratulations on your retirement from the board. Jerry, it was always my pleasure to share our side of the table. You, Chris, and I had some good times over there and a lot of good laughs. We had some good thoughts and comments over the many years together. I think Chris mentioned some of that earlier. So thank you for all the good times over there. I know the students are going to miss you. I know you always got involved with our student representatives and asking them how their day was going and how they were before the meetings. I think they always, it was a great, we were taking interest with them. So thank you. You presented the board at the state level. Bridget did a great job, Jerry. I know you're very proud. I was really proud of listening to her, all those accomplishments that you've done. I knew many of them, but to hear them all there at one shot, that is marvelous. And it like he did with the board member kid, because that was always a joke between Bridget, Courtney, and Justin. And they were always board member kids and BMKs. And it was always a great thing with them. You provided the board's insights, your special education that John mentioned, your issues going with the state legislature and coming back. I know that Mrs. Ratner, and I'm sure Dr. Varley, always appreciated your input, and Dr. Bazer as well, as we went throughout all our assignments. So you really brought back some to the board. But now you're going to have time, as I mentioned to you. I didn't know if I was going to get back for this chat to say goodbye to you guys. I had to get onto a 9 o'clock call for a storm assignment, but there's a big storm coming on Saturday. So we're getting geared up for that at work. But now you're going to have some time to get ready for cooking, getting you back to your cooking duties. And we look forward to coming over, Melba and I coming over and sharing some meals with you and Holly and some of your great desserts that you always made for us. So don't look, you did some amazing things for us. So thank you so much. Yeah, Jared. Thanks. And Bill, it was great serving with you. You and I have been through some wars together. You and John driving me crazy with spreadsheets. You guys kind of made it easy for me when I needed to adjust something or run something as an adjustment or see what we were trying to do. We tried our best to bring some stability and opportunities for our younger teachers and some financial benefits for them. But we were up against a bigger block than we could overcome. So we tried. I thank you for all your input through all the many years serving with you. I think you and I were probably together 4 or 5 years, and it's always been a good ride. And I always look forward to all your answers and your questions, especially in the back room with all the questioning attitude that you had. And Dante, thank you for your service. Thank you for trying to bring some stability between us and Mountainside over the years. I know you've always been in between as a negotiator, so to speak. I know when we were having the financial discussions between us and Mountainside, you were always a good sounding board and very stable and very understanding, and you worked with us very closely. And I love watching your kids wrestle. I love that, we got to do a lot of things together on different committees and talk about different things. And Bridget was right, Jerry, with you on the athletics committee, that was pretty good. But we had you kept me straight and kept me focused, and I thank you very much. So guys, don't look back. You guys did amazing things, and thank you so much for all your many years of service on the board.
Thanks for coming out, Dennis.
Thanks.
Dennis, thank you. Next up is Lisa Hernandez. Lisa, good evening.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I have a question about the initiatives that were discussed by Dr. O'Connor and Ms. Kopaz, and how you anticipate these initiatives impacting the district's goal of having more children with disabilities able to learn alongside their gen ed peers for a greater percentage of their day? Inclusion, essentially. How do you think they'll impact inclusion?
I'm happy to jump in first. Again, I think the workshop model allows for differentiation, and it really allows teachers, it frees teachers up to work more closely with small group instruction, differentiated instruction. The texts are naturally differentiated because students are reading on their independent level, and teachers can, it allows for more time of coaching. So I think it really does support in-class models.
If I can add on to that, you know, co-teaching works really well when it works well, and it could work really bad when it's not a good mix. Teachers need tools to be able to collaborate. Piggybacking off of what Mary Beth said about the workshop model, you know, it's not about a co-teacher working specifically with students who have IEPs. The workshop model is about understanding your students so well, understanding their assessments, and being able to say that every child has an individualized goal. And so if my goal is inferring and Mary Beth's goal is inferring, and I have an IEP, but she doesn't, we can be pulled together. Because many, many times, right, when we're looking at students with IEPs, their strengths and their weaknesses are not all the same across academics. So I could not need support for reading, but need it for something else. And so the teachers can better differentiate and better plan and better collaborate and better speak to data if they can have more productive meetings, and they can have more time to get work done. And if they can places where, you know, they're looking at data, talking about data, analyzing, and coming up with how to divide and conquer in a more inclusive manner. Overall, this model also supports better partnerships and better working relationships. And again, we know that when our teachers are working well together, or when they're able to collaborate better, it's going to better impact all of our students, including those who have differentiated education plans.
So you would expect it to reduce the amount of time that students need self-contained classrooms and pull out support?
I think the model allows for that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mary Beth, Christie, thank you very much. Lisa Moretti.
Hi there, it's Lisa again. I don't want this to be a back and forth between the gentleman that just spoke, but I do want to make sure that it's noted and that the public is aware that the most recent statistic that was released was that there are 285 total cases proven of in-school transmission. So the fact that he said it's out of school is not necessarily true. It might start out of school, but it's definitely being transmitted within the school. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lisa. I don't see anybody else who's raised their hand for this. I'll pause for one last minute before I close the citizens hearing. Not seeing any other messages in the chat window, nor anybody raising their hand. I will close the citizens hearing. Thank you to those who offered comments and asked questions. If I could have all the board members go and unmute yourselves as we move on to the rest of the agenda. Can I get a motion for our administration items this evening?
I move administration's items A through F.
Second.
In a second, any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Penna,
Yes.
Mr. D'Aquila,
Yes.
Mr. Joya,
Yes.
Ms. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Casano,
Yes.
Dr. Christinino,
Yes.
Mrs. Kirsch,
Yes.
Mr. Reinstein,
Yes. Education items.
I move education items A through E.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Penna,
Yes.
Mr. D'Aquila,
Yes.
Mr. Joya,
Yes.
Ms. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Casano,
Yes.
Dr. Christenino,
Yes.
Mrs. Kirsch,
Yes.
Mr. Reinstein,
Yes. Personnel.
I'll
Item
move
16.
personnel. I'll move personnel items 16A through M.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Penna,
Yes.
Mr. D'Aquila,
Yes.
Mr. Joya,
Yes.
Ms. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Casano,
Yes.
Dr. Christenino,
Yes.
Mrs. Kirsch,
Yes.
Mr. Reinstein,
Yes. Business items 17.
I'll move business 17A through D.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Penna,
Yes.
Mr. D'Aquila,
Yes.
Mr. Joya,
Yes.
Ms. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Casano,
Yes.
Dr. Christenino,
Yes.
Mrs. Kirsch,
Yes.
Mr. Reinstein,
Yes.
I move finance item A through D. Review bills and found everything in it.
And I will second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Penna,
Yes.
Mr. D'Aquila,
Yes.
Mr. Joya,
Yes.
Ms. Riley,
Yes.
Mr. Casano,
Yes.
Dr. Christenino,
Yes.
Mrs. Kirsch,
Yes.
Mr. Reinstein,
Yes. Is there any other business to come before the board this evening?
Yes. I would like to make a recommendation to the board, at least for consideration, relating to committee structures as of January 1st or 2nd of this year, specifically relating to potentially combining the finance and facilities committees. You know, as a ex-finance executive, when I look at you know, the needs of the school district, whether it's on an annual or long-term basis, I think that's sort of one, you know, view of how we need to allocate our resources. And as chair of the finance committee, I found it frustrating or difficult to toggle back and forth, especially when I wasn't on the facilities committee. I've recently gotten onto the facilities committee, but I just think I think we should consider combining those two committees because it's really all about capital planning and resource allocation. And I know I've spoken to Mike D'Aquila about it. He is the chair of the facilities committees, and I think we're of similar minds on this. So I just wanted to put it formally out there that I really think this is a better way for us to be looking at our short and mid and long-term needs from a resource perspective as a district.
I think.
And I agree with,
Yeah,
go ahead, Helen, sorry.
I was just say, I agree, it makes sense.
No, and as a facility professional and who's worked with budgets and everything, it, you know, one goes hand in hand with each other because you can't do one without the other. So I definitely agree with Chris.
We're structured that way in Mountainside.
I know we've talked about this, you know, on an individual basis, but I just think it's important enough that, you know, I would say this publicly, that it's something I think we should do. So, or at least.
And what would be the process to do that?
Well, each year at our reorg meeting, one of the things that we'll look at the committee structure, and if the majority of the board believes it, it sounds like there's a large majority or certainly of the board that believes that if we are in agreement with that, then we will just make the change as a group. And then when we do the committee assignments, we'll obviously just we'll just combine those committees and then look at the representation and figure out who should be on that committee. So it's totally within our means. If we as a group believe it's the right thing to do, then we will do it as a group. Sounds like there's broad agreement of that. Okay, Chris, thank you. Is there any other new business to come before the board?
You're going to talk about the
Yeah, so I have one item to talk about. So as Dr. Varley mentioned in the beginning of this, the state has a color-coded matrix that could change often. It's produced weekly, but there is a lot of data that comes out on a fairly regular basis that could change the status of us being in our hybrid model, which we have today, or a change to all remote. The way we're organized right now is that conversation, if it needs to have a board level conversation, goes to the curriculum committee, as that group is the one who has worked with Dr. Varley back from the beginning of this pandemic with structuring that. Right now, today is December 3rd. Our next meeting is not till January 7th. So the board has a decision to make. The decision is, do we empower the curriculum committee to meet with Dr. Varley should there be a change in any one of these indicators or status that would cause a change to our hybrid versus all remote? And that advisory group, the curriculum committee, could meet with Dr. Varley and speak on behalf of the board to do that. That's one option. That's option one. If the majority of the board does not feel that, we would have to arrange a special meeting sometime immediately after we got information, and then we'd have to bring the whole board together for the sole purposes of having that conversation, because our next meeting is in January 7th. Of course, if nothing happens between now and January 7th, this is moot and there's nothing really to discuss. So the question in front of the board is, do we A, empower the curriculum committee to meet with Dr. Varley should it come up and make that decision on behalf of the board? Or if something comes up, the curriculum committee will still get together and will still, except this time they will make a recommendation to the board, and we would have to have a special board meeting at some time on likely short notice to do that. So I'll open it up for a brief discussion about which of those two options people are in favor of.
Donna, is there a minimum amount of time we have to wait before we have an emergency meeting?
You're supposed to wait 48 hours. You provide notice 48 hours before a board meeting.
Correct, but we are entitled by law as soon as we need to, if warranted. We obviously have to explain why we are not providing 48 hours notice, but we can have a meeting on the next night's notice if we need to. We've never done that before because we haven't been in the case to have an emergency, but the guideline, Don is correct, is 48 hours.
So from a practical perspective, if something were to happen midday and we could get a quorum together, we could actually have a meeting in the evening.
Yeah, and obviously, if it were the case, we would use everything we can to publish that on all of our social media channels. I'm sure Dr. Varley would send out a note to the public. So since we would be having a special meeting, it would be not planned. We would publicize it and announce it to the best way we can to the public.
I mean, given the technology, Zoom, we have 74 people still on the meeting tonight. I would recommend to lean towards, if we have to make such a decision like this, that it should be brought to the full board and that we should have a public debate.
I would agree with Mike. I think it's an important enough decision that the decision should be made with the whole board. So I agree with Mike.
I totally agree. I think it's a major decision. I think it's going to impact a lot of people. And I think it's a responsibility that lies upon the entire board.
I agree with that.
The curriculum committee, with all due respect, is not even a quorum of the board. And the enormity of that kind of decision should lie with the full board. I agree with all my board members, my peers.
I am on the curriculum committee, and I am happy to share that responsibility with the full board.
No, I'm also on the curriculum committee, and I agree.
There you have it.
I'm barely on the board anymore and I'm on the
They just want to come back for one more meeting.
That's it. We didn't want to give it up.
Yeah, they're
Right, but if we have an emergency meeting, I want crumb cake.
deliver it to you.
Okay, so it sounds like everybody is in agreement with that. So that said, if there is a decision that requires a change to our hybrid / all remote options, we will, in as expeditious manner as possible, organize a board meeting, publicize that board meeting to the public. It will be the only thing we talk about at that, because the meeting would by definition be sometime between now and January 7th. It'll be the only item that we talk about. Well, it sounds like the board is in agreement with that, so we will do that. There is no guarantee that we will do that, but if there is a decision that comes down, it is the board's belief, or a collective belief, that we will do that. So that's what we'll do. And again, we'll make it as I would just ask all board members to be as flexible as possible. Should you get a note from likely Donna that says, we're going to have a meeting, it could be like a tomorrow night kind of thing. And again, we'll do our best to publicize that to the public. Okay, great, thank you. Any other new business to come before the board?
I'd like to just thank Jerry, Bill, and Dante again for all they've done. Each of them has a different talent and a different perspective, but they've all worked to make our board and our schools better. So nobody realizes the amount of time and effort that goes into being a board member, and they've all served for many years. So I really do appreciate all that they've done.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'd also like to say, sorry, thank you. I've really enjoyed working. I know it's only been a year working with you guys, but I've really enjoyed it. And I wish you all the best moving forward.
Thank you.
And to echo those same comments to Dante, Bill, thank you very much for your service. Dante, for serving on 2 boards and doing double duty, both Mountainside and Berkeley Heights. Bill, working together with you, it was great. In that short period of time, we were able to work in person. I value that. And Jerry, I had the distinct honor and pleasure of working with Jerry before being on the Board of Ed. We both had to meet each other in Jersey City to realize we both lived in the same town and everything. And Jerry, gonna miss you. You're right. I have your cell phone, and I will definitely be using it. It's been an honor and a pleasure working with you.
Same here. Thank you. We'll be.
I so wish we could have done this in person, guys. It's hard to say goodbye like this. So until we meet again in person. Be there. Sounds good.
Thanks. So with that, as we approach the early holiday season, as this is our last meeting, a wish to all the board and to the public a safe, healthy, happy, very small scale holiday season to all. We know the entire community, educational and full community, has been through a lot this year, both educationally as well as just the rest of your life. So again, a safe, healthy, happy, small scale holiday to all. And I hope that we are back on January 7th. And again, if we need be sometime earlier. So good night. Thanks for joining tonight, and enjoy the holidays.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care. Happy holidays all. Take care.
Good night, everyone.
Holidays.